As we take a look and navigate this page, one of the key things to highlight as you're demoing the solution is the flexibility of this page. For example, we can go in here and filter only showing, for example, switch clients. A great demo example is to be able to find all of the printers in the network using the client's view. So we can do that by simply typing the word printer in the search box. You'll see we have 14 connected printers in the network, and we can see all the details about them, including things like the name that IT has chosen to assign to each one, and perhaps things like which VLAN these devices are on. Now, everything looks good here. All the printers are connected, but if we were to want to troubleshoot one, all we'd have to do is click on it, and again, we are shown this very detailed view containing all of the pertinent information to this device. Things like the fact that it is currently connected, but one of the coolest things is that we show you exactly which switch and port this device is currently connected to. Other information like the device type, usage statistics for the device, and other network information are all readily available. We also have a couple of nice tools in this view, including the Wake on LAN tool if we wanted to wake this device up, and a ping tool if we wanted to see if there were any connectivity issues between the switch and this printer. Now, in addition to showing you which port and switch this printer is plugged into, we actually link you to it as well. So let's go ahead and click on port 27. You'll notice that this takes us out of the client's view and into the switch's view, and it has actually pulled up the switch and port this specific printer is plugged into right now. This is fantastic if you're trying to see the other angle, which is looking at it from a switch's perspective. We can see how this port is configured, we can see who is currently plugged into this, we can see the status of the connection over time, and we have yet another few tools in our arsenal if we were to want to troubleshoot something with this printer. Great example is our cable test live tool. This is definitely worth demoing, and you can click play just to see if there's any issues with the cable that is being used to connect the printer to the switch. Lots of network problems are caused by simple issues with cabling. We can see in this example the printer's cable is perfectly fine. We can see an estimated length, and we can see that the cable itself tested as okay. Another key example of a live tool that a lot of our network admins find useful is our port cycle tool. You'll notice that if I click play here, it's going to actually bounce the port, and it's going to reset the connection between the switch and the printer. Another great tool, really readily available and accessible within the dashboard. The last thing that's absolutely worth demonstrating in the context of powerful visibility and Meraki's live tools is the network topology view. Now there's two ways to show this. I personally like to show the topology from the perspective of a selected client. So let's go back to our Minotaur printer, which is what we looked at previously. And you may have noticed that there was actually a topology link here. This, when clicked, is going to take you to the Meraki topology view. You can also navigate to it from the context menu to the left by going to network-wide topology. However, by clicking on it from the printer's view, it's going to pre-search and show you exactly the network path that this printer takes as it makes its way out to the internet. And you can see the highlighted path starting from how it connects at the edge of the network to the specific switch, how that switch makes its way through the network aggregation layer, the network core layer, and ultimately out to the internet. This is an incredible way to look at the network, and it's very unique to Meraki. Now let's go ahead and take a look at how to demo how straightforward the Meraki switches can be to set up and configure. In order to demo this, you're going to want to go to the switch ports page. This is what we call the virtual stack, and it's where a user can configure all of the switch ports for the entire network. Now remember, we have 85 switches in this particular location, and so this view is going to list out all of the ports for all of those switches. It's an extremely powerful page, both from a monitoring perspective. You can see the status of each of these ports, for example, but also in order to configure your switches. You could, for example, and this is a great demo, type 1 through 10 to tell this page you want it to list just ports 1 through 10 for each switch. Now if you do the math, 85 switches, 10 ports each, you end up with 850 switch ports. That's a lot. And from there, you can select all of these ports at once. Once you've selected all of the ports, you can simply click Edit, and a pop-up shows you all of the various settings and options that are available for you to configure all of these ports. It's great to demo just this view because it lists all of these out very intuitively rather than having to memorize what and how you can make these configuration changes on this range of ports that you've selected. Once you've shown how you can configure all the switches in the network en masse, it's also worth demoing the clone tool. So we're going to go back to switch switches, and conceptually the clone tool allows for you to pick one switch for the source configuration, meaning you only really need to configure one switch if you want all of your switches to be configured the same. And then you can choose one or many switches to clone to. So for example, let's go ahead and pick a specific model. We're going to pick the MS220 48FP. We have a total of 7 switches of this model, and maybe we want to clone the first 6 to look exactly like switch 4.1.9. So I went ahead and selected these. You can select the top one, hold Shift, and select the bottom. You can choose the clone tool, and then you can simply search for 4.1.9. Now by clicking clone here, it's going to let me copy the configuration from 4.1.9 to the rest of the switches. This saves tons of time, and it's a really cool feature to demo. For those customers more interested in performance and redundancy, there's many features across Dashboard that are worth demoing there. One of the key ones is some of our switches which have the ability to be physically stacked, and there is a dashboard component to that. So under switch, we can see that there's monitor switch stacks. Now physical stacking as a technology is quite straightforward. You plug the cables in and you're good to go. But Dashboard brings this technology to life, and it really shows you all of your stacks and the various stack members therein. For example, this 5.2 Access Orange stack has a total of 4 members, and if we click on it, you can actually see a lot more detail about that particular switch stack, such as per member usage, what's plugged in, and again, lots of troubleshooting tools and other capabilities. A really nice one is the ability to quickly clone and replace a failed stack member in the off chance that that were to happen. You can simply go to the stack, say clone and replace, choose the source and destination, and be on your way. If customers are looking for layer 3 capabilities, we also offer high availability and dynamic routing functions. Those are going to be found under switch, routing, and DHCP. If we go there, you'll see that there's lots of settings and options, and in terms of high availability, towards the bottom you'll see the ability to add warm spares. This is again very simple, and all you have to do is choose add a new warm spare, choose the primary, choose the spare, and click save. Now if you were to want to demonstrate some of the other routing capabilities, you can see on this page that there's ways to add static routes, add interfaces, and there's another page dedicated specifically to OSPF dynamic routing. The really nice thing with the Meraki cloud architecture is that it's always monitoring all of your devices, including the switches in this particular network. Network administrators have the ability to custom tailor alerts for their IT teams. So if you can see, if we go to the alerts and administration page, network alerts are configurable by device type. So there's lots of switch alerts that a network administrator can choose to enable, and we strongly recommend demonstrating this to your customers. This is particularly useful for those networks that have high availability requirements because those alerts will be sent as soon as a problem has been detected, or for example, a warm spare failover has occurred. Now, if you want to demonstrate some of our security features on the Switch product, I recommend going to Switch Access Policies. This is where network admins can define and create security policies that can be used across all of the switches in their network. Now you can see in the Meraki organization, we've configured a radius server and we've configured an 802.1x type access policy. Once a user has defined a policy like this and saved it, it is now configurable on any selected switch port that the user might want to apply that policy to. So to demonstrate how to apply this access policy, we would go back to switch ports, and we would select one or more switch port and apply the access policy to it. For example, if we wanted to apply the access policy to ports 1 through 10 on all switches, we would simply specify the range, select those ports, and we would go here to access policy and choose the desired policy we would want to apply to those ports. That concludes our demo highlights for Meraki's cloud-managed MS switching solution. I hope it was useful, and happy demoing!